and welcome to Night Treks. The night is dark, so it's time for a tale. I'm Tom, your ghost host, and this is our strange journey into one story that is dark, strange, and true, but maybe not. We'll leave that for you to decide. Now, tonight's tale is a little different than normal. First, it's a love story, and that's not normally associated with the dark and the strange, but you'll see there's a strange twist to this story. And secondly, as you'll see as we finish up tonight, you're not getting the whole story, you're just getting the bare minimum. So, tonight's tale is called It's About Time. The first raindrop hit his head and made its way down behind his left ear and then forged its way down the side of his neck. The next one hit his forehead and ran down into his already burning and dampened right eye as he watched the Greyhound bus pull away from the curb and away from him. It was then that the rain began to fall in earnest. Within seconds, Jeremy was soaked through. He didn't mind. It seemed to fit what he was feeling at the moment. For you see, she was leaving him. She was on that bus. Jeremy stood there watching the bus slowly move toward the intersection where it would turn right and out of his life. He thought forever. His emotions boiled as he considered running the bus down. He could see himself catching up to that bus at the intersection. He could see the turn signal on that side blinking through the rain as he pounded on the door. His imagination showed him the bus driver being vexed with his behavior and asking, "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" In his mind's eye, he could see himself saying to the driver, "I can't let her leave." Next, he's jumping onto the bus and running down the center aisle, falling on his knees at her seat and begging her to take him with her. He sees her looking down at him with tears in her eyes and saying, "It's about time." And then she smiles. But Jeremy just stood there on the curb with the rain pouring down over him and a feeling of deja vu as he watched the bus turn right and disappear behind the terminal. Now, the past several months had been a blur to Jeremy. He had come to New Orleans to get away from Mobile for a while. 19 and on his own, he had dropped out of school at South to clear his head. His parents had been killed in a home invasion gone wrong. Granted, they caught the guys who had killed them and they were sent to Holman, but that didn't fix Jeremy. He seemed lost without them. Now, it's not every college student that has a great relationship with his parents, but they were special. And now he wasn't sure what to do. So he ran. Jeremy hitched a ride with a trucker and ended up on the outskirts of the Crescent City. And he walked into town and ended up at Jackson Square. "Can I help you?" Jeremy jerked himself out of his reverie just in time to avoid walking into a display of paintings. "Oh, sorry," he mumbled. He looked up to see a woman with auburn and black hair, shining eyes, and a bright smile. Surrounded by her paintings, which were a mix of the classical and the contemporary, she seemed to read him instantly. "Just got to NOLA, huh?" Yeah, from Mobile," he answered. "Really? I'm from Mobile. Wow, what a coincidence." "Oh, okay. Yeah, cool," he stammered. "Things not so cool in Mobile, I take it?" she asked. "Oh, what you mean?" "Well, sorry for being so forward. I just call 'em like I see 'em," she said with that same shining smile. And nearby, an old man was opening his guitar case and settling it on a bench. He pushed the case out in front of him and began playing an old blues tune that added an ethereal quality to what was happening to Jeremy. Time seemed to slow as he looked back at this intriguing woman. "Look, I'm not going to pry. My name's Raz," she said with a little half curtsy and then a flourish. Short for razzmatazz, she added with a gleeful chuckle. Because of all this, pointing at her paintings. She then stretched out her hand to Jeremy. Nice to meet you. Jeremy reached out seemingly in slow motion to shake her hand, beginning to feel numb. Jeremy, he said with a tremble in his voice. Okay, Jeremy, nice to meet you, still smiling. And I can tell you're in a tough place. The old man started singing, and Jeremy's dreamlike trance just deepened. Raz was still talking. And it doesn't matter what kind of help you might need. I think she can help you. Who? Lady Adele, Raz answered, ignoring his reverie. Some folks think she's into the dark stuff, voodoo or hoodoo or whatever they call it. But I think she's a really sweet lady and in communication with the big man, if you know what I mean. Oh, yeah, I guess so, answered Jeremy, his confusion apparent. Raz stopped to answer a few questions from a couple, pausing to look at her paintings, and then told them, Be with you in just a sec, and then turning back to Jeremy. Here, she said, tearing a piece of paper from a notebook. I'm writing down her address. You tell her I sent you, and she'll let you write in. Look, if I'm sticking my nose in where it doesn't belong, forgive me. It just looks like you need some direction, and you just might find it there with Lady Adele. Oh, okay, thanks, he muttered. Raz wished him good luck and turned to talk to the couple that had walked up. The old blues player finished his song at the same time, and the dreamlike trance faded away. Jeremy looked around, disoriented for a moment, and then walked away from Raz and her paintings. It took him a moment to collect his thoughts, and when he did, he looked down to see a piece of paper in his hand, not knowing where it really came from. And then he remembered. Written on it was an address under the name Lady Adele. He wondered if Raz might be into some of the same kind of whatever it was that she said people thought Lady Adele might be into. What just happened, he thought. As he was going back over his interaction with Raz, he started walking, looking down at the pavement as he did so, and not only looking up to avoid a street sign, a daiquiri cart, or pedestrian, or some other obstacle. That was just weird, he said out loud. But of course, being in New Orleans, he did not get any startled reaction from any others that might have heard him, like he might have gotten in any other city. But he wasn't paying attention anyway. He was confused and intrigued, but amazed at his encounter with Raz. He stopped walking, looked down at the slip of paper again, and then looked up. He was standing at Lady Adele's address. How? And then the door opened. A young, dark-skinned beauty with golden eyes and jet black hair stood in front of him. His mouth went dry and he couldn't speak. She was wearing a simple blue dress with bangles on her wrist as well as her ankles and a leather necklace with a shell hanging from it. She smiled at him, and it seemed her golden eyes shone even brighter. Ah, there you are, she said with laughter in her voice. I was hoping I would see you today. Again, time slowed down for Jeremy. He tried to speak, but only stammered, hi. Now, he had never considered himself very smooth with the ladies, but he had never come across a woman that had affected him in such a way. He stands almost 6 feet with what he thinks is just a plain face and curly brown hair hanging just below his ears. Now, he had never considered himself a catch, but he had never been nervous around women either until now. She giggled and said, I think it's time we were properly introduced. I'm Rose. Nice to meet you, Jeremy. What? How? Come on in. Nana's waiting for you. She'll explain everything. still with a smile, still with the laughter in her voice. Feeling like he was walking in slow motion, Jeremy stepped into the dimly lit dwelling. Rose led him to the back of the house and introduced him to her grandmother, Lady Adele. The old woman just smiled at him and motioned for him to sit. Jeremy acquiesced and looked at her. Lady Adele continued to smile. She was a small woman, dark-skinned as well, and with piercing gray eyes that belied her advanced age, and she was dressed in a billowing green dress with a matching head wrap. For several moments they just sat in silence. Jeremy, becoming more uncomfortable by the minute, felt like he had to speak and said, Raz. Lady Adele gave a surprised little chirp. Oh, you've met Raz. I just love her. And that artwork, that girl has a keen eye. And now if she spotted you out of that Jackson Square crowd, then you are in the right place. And lapsed into silence again. After a few more moments, she sat up straight and then spoke. Son, it is so good to see you. We were hoping it would be today. Jeremy, old Shake, has tried to take you down, but you did the right thing, son. You kept going. Your feet have brought you here, guided by the force of love. You've known the deepest forms of love, that of family, and that has been ripped away from you. Now it's time to learn that love can control time, destiny, and fortune. It won't be an easy lesson to learn, hon, but given time you will. Rose? Yes, Nana? Show Jeremy to his room. He's going to be with us for a while. Yes, ma'am, Rose said. Looked at Jeremy, winked, and took him by the hand and led him upstairs. The next few months were the most unusual of Jeremy's short life. Lady Adele treated him as if he were her own son or grandson. They started meeting together after breakfast each morning, talking about things seen and unseen. Lady Adele began to open up the world of esoteric wisdom to Jeremy, and he tried to absorb every aspect of it. And Rose became his constant companion through all of it. His heart began to heal as they made him part of their family. They showed him the mystical and the mysterious, the mundane and the miraculous, the purity and the delight that only love can truly be. But now with Rose, there was something deeper. Jeremy had never really known what the term soulmate could mean, but he was sensing that depth of relationship with her. He mentioned it to her one day as they were sitting on the moonwalk one evening watching the sunset, and she replied, "It is what it's supposed to be." And she pulled him close, laying her head on his shoulder. But his dark-skinned, golden-eyed, raven-haired beauty was destined to leave. She had been an education major at UNO, and before Jeremy had shown up at her door, had applied and been accepted in the master's program at Vandy. And now she was leaving. Everything that had happened in the past year kept rolling through his mind. And he stood there in the rain watching the bus leave. The hurt, the healing, the love, the loss, the renewing, the new start. And it all came crashing down again as the rain continued to fall. He stood there a few more moments before running back to Lady Adele's place and his room. He packed up what few items he had and left, distraught, not looking back. And again, Jeremy ran. 30 years later, moving from town to town, odd jobs here and there, could never settle in one place. He eventually found himself in the cab of an old diesel truck making his way east on Interstate 10. He had told the driver he wanted to get back to Mobile. Now, Jeremy dozed off just outside of Houston and was jolted awake by the air brake signaling the truck was coming to a stop. Assuming he was in Mobile, Jeremy jerked himself up, thanked the driver, and jumped out. He began walking toward town, and it wasn't until he reached Jackson Square that he realized that he was not in Mobile. And he hadn't realized either that his feet were leading him again. But at this point, he was too tired to care. He vaguely remembered a conversation on the square with an artist, but couldn't remember her name. And then the next thing he knew, he was standing in front of Lady Adele's door. Fear cropped up as he realized where he was. He turned to run just as the door opened. And there she was. Rose. Rose. 30 years older, but with the same smile and same beauty as he had always remembered. There you are. I was hoping I would see you today. It's about time, she said with the same laughter in her voice. She stepped out to stand in front of the stunned Jeremy. It's okay, she said as she reached up to touch his face. We're going to be okay. And she smiled. She leaned in to kiss him. And when their lips touched, the first raindrop hit his head and made its way down behind his left ear, and then forged its way down the side of his neck. The next one hit his forehead and ran down into his already burning and dampened right eye as he watched the Greyhound bus pull away from the curb and away from him. It was then that the rain began to fall in earnest. Within seconds, Jeremy was soaked through. He didn't mind. It seemed to fit what he was feeling at the moment. For you see, she was leaving him. She was on that bus. Jeremy stood there watching the bus slowly move toward the intersection where it would turn right and out of his life. But without hesitation, Jeremy sprinted toward the intersection and caught the bus just before it could make its turn. With the turn signal flashing in his rain-soaked eyes, Jeremy began pounding on the door of the bus. The driver opened the door and with exasperation yelled, "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" "I can't let her leave," he yelled back. Jeremy jumped up into the bus and ran down the aisle to where he saw Rose sitting. He got down on his knees beside her. "Here or there, I can't live without you, Rose. Stay with me or take me with you, but we have to be together." Rose looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, "It's about time." Then she smiled and kissed him. And as she kissed him, Jeremy began to experience deja vu all over again. Images and memories rushing in and flooding his mind. He sees himself standing in the rain and letting her leave, not just once, but time and time and time again. Her kiss 30 years in the future always brings him back to where he's standing on that curb, having to make the choice again and again and again. How could he have been so foolish, so blind? Why did it take so long? Rose pulls away and looks at him. With everyone on the bus clapping and cheering, she said, "I was hoping you would come after me this time." So, what do you think? A time loop? A vortex? Is such a thing even possible? Is deja vu even a real thing? Can someone go back and fix their mistakes? Wouldn't you like to? Well, you decide. Now the tale is told, and we are done. Until the next dark night when we take our night treks, this is your ghost host, Tom, wishing you safe but strange night treks.